Welcome, everybody, to UFO Man Live. That's the first time I've played the UFO Man theme song by Brothers of Alien Rock, who wrote it for me, in a long time. So I hope you enjoyed it. Tonight we have a special guest. She's behind her avatar because her phone is overheating. Her name is Triple B, also known as Christina Sharp. She is retired U.S. Navy airman. She served aboard the CVN 72 USS Abraham Lincoln back in 1995. In February of 1995, she was on board the aircraft carrier and something happened to her that was extraordinary, and we're going to be talking about that tonight. So please welcome Triple B.
Welcome.
Hi, everyone.
Greetings.
Hey, Triple B. Welcome.
Is there any way you can come on camera, Triple B?
Give me a minute.
Okay.
Just so they can get a look at your beautiful mug.
Right?
Oh gosh. Okay, I'm in traffic.
Yeah, she's driving. She's in her car and she's driving down the highway home from work. That shows a lot of commitment to what she wants to do. So tonight we're going to share with you her story on board the aircraft carrier, because what occurred happened 9 years prior to the 2004 USS Nimitz encounter with a Tic Tac. So let's bring Chrissy full screen and let her talk.
Yeah, I've tried.
Okay. There you go.
Just be careful. My God, be careful.
I've tried. Only YouTubers do dangerous stuff, right?
Right.
There you go.
Yeah. So, I'm Chrissy Sharp. I was on the Abraham Lincoln. The Abraham Lincoln, when I went to boot camp, I wanted to get as far away from home as possible. I live in California. I'm in the Central California area by Sacramento, California. So I joined the Navy, and I left to go see the world. And when I did, I got to my boot camp in Orlando, Florida. From there, they sent me to Millington, Tennessee, to aviation school there. I went there to Millington, Tennessee, and when I was in school, they advised me that I would be one of the first women on board aircraft carriers, and that I was being sent to the Abraham Lincoln that was now taking billets for women. So a few handful of us was selected, and we were sent to San Francisco, California, Alameda, right back home. So we came right back home, and we were at Treasure Island for 2 weeks while they prepared the ship for women to be on board. And then that was about September of '94. And so it was brand new to the Navy that women were on board aircraft carriers when this incident happened to me in February. So we were still new, we were still learning, we were still developing. And so it's very interesting what happened. So we happened to be on one of our first workups, ready for going on a Westpac, which is like 6 months out to sea. And it was one of our first workups. So we were on deck. It was at night. I was working night. We were outside of San Diego, but we would constantly do like rotation from Catalina Island to San Diego, kind of like figure 8 for workups. And then we were outside of Catalina Island, and it was a stormy night. It was really choppy. The sea was really choppy. You could actually feel an aircraft carrier pitching and rolling. So it's a pretty choppy night.
I got to ask you a question. Wasn't the aircraft carrier the second largest ship in the naval fleet at the time?
Absolutely, it was.
The Abraham Lincoln?
Yes. And the difference between us and the ship was bigger than us was about 6 inches.
Wow.
It was just the ramp for the aircraft on the front of the ship that made it a little bit bigger. The actual physical size of the ship was the same. They're Nimitz-class carriers, nuclear carriers.
Right. And you were carrying nuclear warheads.
I'm not authorized to say, but it's a nuclear aircraft carrier.
Yeah, I know. It's still classified. I know. I'm aware of that.
Okay, Army.
Well, just trying to get it out of you. You know how that
It's just
goes.
between us, you know? It's just between us.
Well, just between us and the internet.
Okay,
No worries.
once military, always military. You know that, Tim.
Yeah, I know that. But I'm just trying to peel back the onion, you know.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. But, yeah, so I remember being on deck. I was getting ready to, so it was February. I was 19. I was going to turn 20 in April. So I was still very young. And you got to remember, at this time, we had pagers. We had phone cards. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have all the fancy equipment that we have today. We didn't have, like, emails and stuff yet, really. That stuff was just starting to come out. So we were on deck. We were launching aircraft. And we saw the fog started rolling in, and it was extremely thick. It was extremely thick. So they started slowing down flight ops, and so we were waiting, watching what's called the ball for the plane to come in, to land. And we were watching the ball, but we saw what looked like bright stars kind of twinkling through the fog, and the fog just kept getting like heavier and thicker. And so we were like, is that the plane? But then there were like several of them spread out kind of like stars, like, you know, different, to the right, to the left, above you, like they were in sporadic different areas. So that wasn't the plane. That wasn't the plane. And so we were like, what is that? Because it was bright, and there wasn't LED lights and stuff then either. And we were like, that's bright coming through the fog. And it kind of came together into like a cluster. And then it shot straight down in the ocean, and there was no splash or anything, and it just vanished. I don't know what it was. I know it wasn't something I've ever seen before, and it wasn't anything that we had launched off the aircraft carrier.
Now, did you think that it was a
like
tic-tac?
again?
Did you think it was a tic-tac formation?
I believe so. Now that I know what that is, at the time, I had no clue. I did not know what it was. I knew that we didn't launch it. At first, we thought maybe the plane had crashed and went down, but then it didn't make sense that all the lights came together. If it was a plane going down, all the lights would have been in the same spot, and it looks different. It's completely different.
Right.
And then right after that, the pilot, about 20 minutes after that incident, the pilot landed, and he had a perfect landing. So we kind of just went on with our business, but we all were like, what was that? And so the next morning, we wake up, and we find out that our ship is in the middle of the World Cup yacht race. We had some technical difficulties with the equipment.
It's okay. It's okay.
So we were not where we were supposed to be.
And where were
I
you
do
supposed
have
to be?
I do have that clip, Chrissy. Should I play it?
Absolutely. Please.
Okay.
And I'm going to turn my camera off now so I can set my phone down so I can drive.
Good call.
Okay, go right
You
ahead.
guys can ask me questions if you want.
And this is the first time an Australian boat has beaten a New Zealand yacht in America's Cup 95.
Heavy fog was a feature of Round Robin 2, making life difficult for the crews as they navigated their way around the course. But it wasn't only the America's Cup crews that were floundering in the thick, dense fog.
There's some of the aircraft aboard the huge aircraft carrier, the nuclear warship, the Abraham Lincoln, that somehow has got through the cordon that has been set up by the US Coast Guard. Well, this probably brings the biggest spectator fleet ever to the Louis Vuitton Cup. There are 5,200 people aboard that, plus all the other people on spectator craft and official vessels out here. There might be 10,000 people out watching this race today. Well, race officials for the Louis Vuitton Challenger Series have no alternative but to postpone racing here with this giant vessel coming uninvited into the start zone area. This is a case of might is right.
So that's the clip that I received through Chrissy and my flock Sarah down there on the bottom here, that described what happened with their warship. Right, Chrissy?
That's accurate. Also, keep in mind, the Coast Guard was keeping the boundary for the World Cup, and they didn't see us slip through as well. Their equipment was also malfunctioning.
Wow.
Christy, how many people saw this with you?
I only know of the 4 people that was near me at the time. I'm not sure because there's thousands of people on the ship. I can't validate what I know from everybody else. I know that
Right.
the crew that I was standing there with, we all saw it, and there was 4 of us.
Now, after the event, were you able or were you asked to give a report on it, kind of don't say nothing about it, or how did they handle this?
What I can say, that I'm authorized to say, is that there was a debriefing regarding the incident. However,
Okay.
how do I put it? So the way that they handled it was they made it seem like it was that the people coming on board the ship and doing investigations and stuff like that was because we were in the World Cup. Nobody ever mentioned what people had saw. It was the World Cup. It was all around the World Cup, how we ended up there, what happened to get us there. But that was the extent of it. And of course, the military will not disclose information regardless. So
Yeah.
So the world,
Yeah.
the World Cup or the American Cup race was actually a good fallback narrative for them so they didn't
Right.
have to refer to the actual event.
Right.
The thing is, before I heard this information from Sarah about your encounter, I had never heard of it before. I've interviewed a lot of people off of Princeton, the USS Nimitz, and other carriers, and that was 2004 and after. So you're 9 years prior to that.
Yeah.
So that is proof that these things were interacting around Catalina Island with Navy vessels prior to 2004.
Exactly.
A very eerie, weird dead fog that arrived. So I believe, honestly, that the World Cup yacht race was an excuse.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. I feel like it's a cover-up. Like they said, oh, okay, well, we ended up in the middle of we have to figure out how we ended up here. So it's all about the World Cup, how we ended up there. Because there's a lot of people to answer to when an aircraft carrier is launching aircraft in the middle of the World Cup.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you're
I have to state something here. The World Cup, according to NOS, is soccer. The America's Cup is
the America's Cup yacht race,
Yeah.
right?
is the boating
Yes.
race.
correct. I've always called it the World Cup because I don't really do yacht stuff, so I don't know.
Right.
Exactly. I just know we were there. We all got patches that said first in its class, and there was a picture of an aircraft carrier on the patch in the middle of the world race with all the yachts around the bottom of it.
Right.
But yeah, we ended up in the wrong place with a lot of people to answer to. That I do know for a fact.
Were the 4 people that you know of debriefed individually?
We were taken into a stateroom and told not to speak to each other at first, and then they did ask us what we saw individually. Yes.
Okay.
Did you speak between you guys after that? Because sometimes, you can see things together and then there is a total denial, like, no, I didn't see it. So did you talk? Did you talk between?
Well, the instantaneous moment it happened, we all said the same thing. What the F is that? At the same time.
Right.
So I know that everyone around me saw it. However,
yeah,
they didn't want us really talking too much because you don't want to feed off each other what each other saw. You want an individual of what you saw, your perception of what you saw, not influenced by the people around you or what they're saying or happen to fabricate. So they want an individual response. They don't. It's kind of like a crime. You don't want to ask somebody that, like 2 people in the same room because then they'll say the same thing. You want to literally ask them individually, what did you see? Describe it from the time and everything. And that's respectable because that's what helps you to figure out the truth. If they were to pull us aside and say, what did you guys just see? And somebody started blurting out one thing, it could change the perception of what somebody else thinks they saw.
Right.
So,
Because they might embellish. Yep.
Correct.
Yes.
So
but when you went to sleep that night, what were your thoughts? What was your instinct saying to you, to yourself? What did you see?
The instinct saying to me was that wasn't of this earth. I don't know what that was. That was weird. That was odd. But at the same time, you're trying to pay attention to the plane that's coming in, that's getting ready to land, and pay attention to the foggy and make sure that your life is safe and your crew around you are safe. So, you're kind of just dismiss it for a minute until, you go to bed and you have a minute to think about it, and then you're like, what?
Yeah.
I was going to go ahead, Sarah, go.
Okay, I have a question. I want to know, from Catalina to where you ended up in San Diego, how many miles was that, or however you just determine distance?
Nautical miles, yeah.
There you go.
I don't know, but I know that we could do it overnight on an aircraft carrier.
Wow. So how fast does an aircraft carrier move? Can you disclose that?
I probably can. I know that when we do high-speed turns, the high-speed turns are at a very high velocity that if you're standing in the hangar bay and you look up, you'll see sky, and if you look down, you'll see ocean out the hangar bay.
Wow.
I believe an aircraft carrier, and it does get bumpy because as you're getting up in those higher speeds, the aircraft carrier is going, I don't know about now, but it did then. This is
Right.
25 years ago. There's been a lot of advancements, but we would be able to go 70 knots.
Wow, that's pretty fast.
So
For a craft that big, that's pretty fast. The only thing I want to add to Sarah's question is this. Go ahead, Sarah. I'm going off track. Go ahead, Sarah.
I already forgot what I was going to say. Don't worry about it.
Okay, what I was going to say is this. When you saw the objects, you were on deck. But where on the deck were you? Because we saw a picture of the aircraft carrier. So where were you? Were you toward the front, the bow, or the stern?
Okay. So, on an aircraft carrier, you have port and starboard. How I always remember port and starboard is port has 4 letters and so does left. Starboard has more than 4 letters, so it's got to be right. That's my way of remembering port and starboard. And then forward and aft. Forward and aft. So, and then on an aircraft carrier and all ships, there are what are called bones, or the bones throughout the ship go from the nose, the bow, to the stern. And as you move from bow to stern backwards, those bones get a different number. So say that you're at the front of the ship, you're going to be at the first bone. You move back a little bit, you're going to be at the second bone, the third, but it's not called a bone. It would just be 1-02 if you're on the second deck, dash, and we call it tack, not dash. So if you're reading the bullseye as you're walking around the aircraft carrier, you could be at, 235. That's 235 bones back in the ship. So it's going to be towards the aft of an aircraft carrier. So I was technically at the aft of the ship on the port side by the fueling station.
Okay.
Why wasn't there a decision to release like boats or something to go and check up in the water if you can see some lights or what happened there?
They don't. So what they have is at that time, all of the life rafts and boats and stuff were stuff that was like for the captain, that was put up, locked up, put away by the aviation boatswain's mates, or the boatswain's mates actually. And then all of the rafts and everything were all contained. So the only thing we had at that time were helos, H-56s, and we had 3 helos assigned to our aircraft, and they did launch the helos to go do an inspection.
But don't you, with the aircraft carrier, don't you also have submarines escorting you?
Exactly.
Okay, so we have what's called a fleet, and I was part of the 7th Fleet. And the 7th Fleet, you'd have battleships, you'd have fueling ships, you'd have submarines, and so forth and so on. But that doesn't always mean that you're super close to each other. It doesn't mean that the submarine is right below the ship. The only time we ever would see the submarine is when they popped up for a second to take an aviation picture, and then they'd vanish, and we wouldn't see them again for 6 months. So I can't honestly tell you where the submarine was. I don't know.
Because I was thinking that the submarine could have taken sonar readings of the area where the encounter occurred.
Correct, but I wasn't privileged if that information was given.
Right,
that there
I
was something
understand.
identified. I was not privileged to any of that information, so I cannot confirm nor deny.
Okay, well, that's fine. Had to ask.
I know, and that's fine, and I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, that's good.
Great, it's great.
One thing we want to do on this channel, Triple B, is thank you for your service. on board the
Definitely.
aircraft carrier and for making such an impact as one of the first women to serve on board an aircraft carrier. So thank you very
Yeah.
much for your service. We're very proud of you, and we're glad that you're here.
Yeah.
Well, thank
Definitely.
you. I'm very honored and complimented to be here with you guys today. And I've never really been really into UFOs and stuff like that. I was a single mom, so I worked 3 jobs and I was busy a lot in my life. But now my daughter's grown, and I've met you through Sarah, and I thought, maybe it's time I say what I thought. Just maybe.
Agreed.
So I think it's important that people know that, like I said before, and I'll reiterate it, this was 9 years before the Pentagon came out with the USS Nimitz sighting that was all over the news, but they've never released any information about the Abraham Lincoln encounter in February of 1995.
And I believe the reason for that is because it was, at the time, a test facility for women on board ships, and we ended up in the World Cup. So there's too much controversy going on that they had to keep it hush-hush in case,
Right.
they would come on board of other things that were going on, because we were coming up upon the 6-month portion of women being on board aircraft carriers and opening billets to all women.
Right.
Right.
Amazing. I'm so proud.
Yeah, it's so awesome.
Well, I'm
You're-
just saying, so there was so many things going on at that time. They were trying to make the Abraham Lincoln stand out as a ship that was making a change and a difference. And so I don't think they wanted that information to get out, because then it may take away from what they were trying to do and to advance the military into letting women into billets.
Yeah, I was thinking,
That's right.
and I was just imagining what the newspaper headline would be, where they would say, like, first woman aboard an aircraft carrier sees aliens, right?
Well,
Yeah.
the
there was
damage that
There
would
you
have done to the
Yeah.
military. Yeah.
there was an LA Times article, a short one on it too. I did send Tim the link to that.
Yeah, I read the article, and it seemed a little discriminatory,
blurb.
so I didn't want to read it.
Right, no, but like I said, it was just like a little blurb, like they didn't take it seriously either. And then
Right,
the
they
Coast
didn't
Guard,
take it seriously. Yeah.
right, and the Coast Guard.
Go
Sorry.
ahead.
Okay, I was just saying the Coast Guard itself too didn't have you let you guys through basically. So there was more than just why the Navy was there, why didn't the Coast Guard stop it, all that other stuff. So the fact that it just got a little blurb was pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah, because the Coast Guard was supposed to be monitoring the area of the race. So they were to monitor to make sure no one entered. How does an aircraft carrier get past that?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, a city
That is a
just
very
sneaked by.
large vessel.
Exactly.
You'd think the cavitation of the ship would actually, the wake of the
Yeah.
ship would actually, the movement of the water would notify these smaller boats that something huge is coming,
Well, we were on deck, right? And we could hear people. And we were like, what is that? And we're like, what is that sound? And then we all went over to the edge of the ship. And as the fog started breaking, here we see yachts down there and people waving at us. And we're like, oh my God. They were right alongside the aircraft carrier in the fog. And they were all just cheering.
Wow.
We were like, what? If we wouldn't even have known if we didn't hear them cheering.
That's amazing. Christy, I wanted to ask you, did you have before these sightings any other sighting before these, or this was your first time?
That was my first and only in my life that I can honestly say that I've experienced, that I don't know what it was. And there was not an explanation for it, and it did not feel.
I have a question. What did they enter the water, and if so, did they splash?
There was no splash. There was no sound of splash, nothing. It just, in a split second, went from the sky and disappeared into the ocean. There was nothing. And it wasn't that far from the aircraft carrier that they vanished. I mean, in the fog, you would have still been able to see something that large going that fast. you would have seen or heard a splash.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Nos, what is your
I mean,
feeling
you can
on
hear the
this?
splash of a whale. If you can hear the splash of a whale from an aircraft carrier,
Yeah,
why wouldn't you be able to hear something that large going into the water?
right.
Right.
See, my thought on it is that this incident is
It was
part of
silent.
the chain of communication that happened over several decades in regards to nuclear activities. Right. You look back at the incident where they had the missile test range. They were testing the new ICBMs, and a saucer came in, shot the thing with a beam, just took it out of the air, right? Destroyed it midair. And then you have the incident where, the UFO showed up at the nuclear missile installation and took everything offline, made all the silos go into failure mode simultaneously, even though they weren't networked to each other. They all failed simultaneously, right, and shut down. And then you had the Russian military installation where their ICBMs all went into launch mode. The silo doors began opening. They were venting their coolant. They were getting ready to take off. Something remotely accessed computers that had no networking capability and provided the computers with coordinates and told all the missiles to launch. And they just happened to shut down before they actually took off. Right.
Yeah.
And then you put the incident here that Chrissy went through onto that list of communications from Celestials with regard to the usage of nuclear weapons. And you're given a conclusion that reads out as a pretty clear statement. If you launch your missiles, we can take them out of the air before they hit your enemy. If you're counting on mutually assured destruction, if the enemy fires on you, we can stop you from firing back. More importantly, we can take control of your missiles and launch them against whoever we want at any time, triggering a counterstrike from the enemy and then making your missiles not actually hit. And you add Chrissy's to that situation, and we can make you think you're wherever we want you to be, targeting what we want you to target.
Yeah. Did you guys even know you guys were not where you're supposed to be up until you heard voices?
No. I'm not sure if they did in the tower. I just know we didn't on deck.
I was going to say, it's really hard for you to see over the edge of the ship unless you're right on the edge, right?
Correct. That is a very wide, vast area. It's like a football field.
Right.
So
So
we started hearing cheering and honking, and we all went to the edge of the deck. Like, what's going on?
right. We have a question from the chat room from Danny Staten.
Hi, Danny.
He's asking, did she happen to see Men in Black on the ship after the event?
Some people did come on board, but I can't say if it was for a sighting or if it was for the yacht race. I can't confirm nor deny. But
All
yes,
both.
we did have people come on board to question some things.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
I've actually heard of people coming on board to claim radar data and sonar data from aircraft carriers.
Correct, kind of like a black box for an airplane sort of type.
Right.
Yeah.
Pull all the tapes and everything. Yep, exactly.
There's a comment in chat from Jim's. He wants to know, where were you supposed to be, Trilby?
Out toward Catalina Island, not by the yacht race.
Which was in San Diego.
Correct.
And you were closer to. I thought the Catalina Islands, they were originally by LA, weren't they?
Yes.
And so you ended up by San Diego.
Correct.
Okay. You got me confused there for a minute. Danny's even going farther and saying, were they wearing black suits?
They did come on board looking civilian. I can say that.
They were wearing civvies. Okay, gotcha. Civvies just means civilian clothing for the non-military folk.
Interesting.
Danny also wants to know if they were wearing sunglasses.
You cannot have that kind of stuff when you get off of a helicopter onto an aircraft carrier because that is considered fraud in real life.
Gotcha.
Not the movies. In real life.
Right.
Yeah.
Contraband, kind of.
Yeah, because it'll thaw out an engine. It'll get sucked up into an engine, or it could cause an accident. So we don't allow anything that is loose. If you have anything loose, it has to be in at that time it had to be in a secured waste pouch or something that could not get out and become thawed or an object debris.
As a kid, I was an ROTC in high school, and one of the field trips that we went on to was out to the naval base out there in San Diego, and we were on aircraft carrier, and we took a whole tour of it and stuff on deck, everywhere, even because they were doing retrofitting on the ship, so they even got to go into the, as we all called it, the war room. It was all black and everything like that, and it was really cold in there. It was the best room ever. But when we were up on deck, I'm going to tell you, man, it is huge at football, and it's hot as all get out up there. And I'm going to tell you, like the fact that you saw these things so clearly too, because they're so huge, right? Is amazing because running to the edge of a thing, you can miss it pretty quick, right? So I'm just blown away, really.
They were very bright. Like I said, you couldn't see stars coming through the fog, but you could see these lights.
Right.
Well, we saw
it was different.
Yeah, we saw in the clip during the day how thick the fog was. So.
Mm-hmm.
So Jim's camera at Dawn has a question. How long between the event and the debrief interview?
I don't think I'm authorized to disclose that information, but we could say that it was less than 24 hours.
Okay, that's good. So
I don't want to get myself in any kind of trouble.
Right, so you're still under an NDA, right?
Correct.
Okay. How long does that NDA hold up? 20 years, the rest of your life? What?
I believe it's the rest of my life because I collect military disability.
Okay.
So they were messing with the controls, right? How bad was it when you saw the controls?
I honestly can't answer that because I was not in the control center. I was on deck.
Okay.
And I didn't really have that many friends that worked in the control center or in operations or in that area.
Okay.
Danny Stanton says military NDA is for life.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine.
Okay, I do have some things I can't say about the nuclear stuff I was working on. But anyways, what I was going to say is when Danny says when ships are in port, they get hot. But when at sea, it's a different experience. And Triple B, you're saying, how hot was it on the deck when you were in Iraq?
It was 135 to 145 during the day with planes running and the engines running.
Wow.
That's horrible.
And then you've got all of your gear. So you've got your turtleneck, your flash gear, your goggles, your cranium, your flow coat. So on top of all that. So they made us rotate teams in and teams out so that we could take breaks.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Snoopyson says no sound. Sounds back, he said. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What I was going to say is 145 degrees. No. I couldn't deal. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, out in California, man, like where I was at before in Hemet, which is closer to Death Valley than, say, Temecula is, right? You get like 120. It's crazy. I can't imagine.
Yeah, and I believe the reason that it was even hotter than it would have normally been is because the aircraft were running and the engines
Right.
caused the additional heat, and then you're reflecting that off of metal.
Right. The tarmac on the runway, is that metal or is that concrete
Asphalt.
over metal? Asphalt?
Okay, so it is a special combination blend that the Navy uses. It is a combination of some kind of like a really thick. It's not asphalt, but it's some kind of like plaster that's an extremely hard kind of like substance, and it's mixed with metal shavings.
Oh, okay.
So if you fall and you hit your knee on that, you're debarked. You have no pants and your kneecap's gone. It's brutal if you trip.
So the deck is made of snow tires.
Worse than that. Worse than that. It's made of the worst grit sandpaper that you could ever think of.
Nice.
Christy, when you saw this ship, did it feel metallic, organic, both of them, intelligent? How?
It looked to me, in my opinion, it looked like Tim explained it, Tic Tacs. Like, it looked like bright Tic Tacs. And when they came together, it just became brighter and bigger. And then, yes.
That's just crazy. Now,
And
how many
so
of
you could,
Windows? No windows?
I couldn't see. It was foggy. And it was dark. And they
Do
were
you-
very bright. So you couldn't see anything but brightness.
do you have a
Yeah.
guess of how many you actually saw? Maybe.
If I had to say, like, how many I saw, was a minimum of 6. But when they came together very quickly.
Were
And from
they in
different
kind of
directions.
were they in a kind of military formation when they came together?
They came together into one bright light.
Oh, they merged into one big light. Gotcha.
Wow.
So
And
they
then
might
they
have been entering a larger craft then.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, did they all go into the water? Just some of them, or like is one big unit, or how? Or
It went straight down into the water in the matter of a flash. It was less than a second.
right?
And it was
But
all
like,
together, one light.
Okay.
Just gone.
wow.
I was going to ask, what do you think the elevation was of these objects when they merged?
I honestly couldn't tell you because it was dark and they were really bright. And they were
Gotcha.
moving very quickly. So they moved so quickly that they looked like they came from really far and like fast.
Yes.
So you couldn't really identify, especially because it was foggy and it was dark.
Right.
We were looking
Yeah.
for our aircraft that was supposedly, coming up to land.
Right. I was going to ask, when it entered the water, did you see any light disappear below the waves?
No, it went from a brightness to just vanished.
Vanish. Gotcha.
What, did the crafts make any sound either?
No, I did not hear any sound.
So aside from the suddenness and
David
brightness of them,
Martin is asking how close did they get to the ship?
You also got to remember we're wearing earphones and hearing protection.
Right. So it's hard for you to hear it.
Yeah.
Correct.
What I'm going to say is, what Polly said, how close was any of these objects to the carrier?
I honestly couldn't tell you because I couldn't tell how large or small they were.
Right.
How close
Yeah.
or far they were. They moved so quickly. You just saw these sporadic different little lights that were the only things you could see through the fog. You couldn't see the plane lights. You couldn't see stars. You couldn't see any of that. But these came through the fog.
So for them to actually have electronic interference with your navigation systems, they had to have some type of electromagnetic field that was powerful enough to do that to a craft of that size. Do you agree?
I agree, but that would be somebody in, you know, the tower that was monitoring what was going on to say if there was actually a fault.
Well, considering you ended up in the America's Cup yacht race,
yes, yes.
you know, that makes me think that, yeah, there had to have been something going on. And I think it might have also been, this is just speculation on my part, it could have been part of the propulsion systems being used by these objects had interfered with the navigation system. I don't think it was intentional in my opinion, but I don't know. I wasn't there. What do you think, Noss?
I have something bouncing around in my head right now that makes me want to stir up trouble. That sounds fun? Okay.
That sounds awesome.
So let's think back to the Philadelphia experiment.
Okay.
Right? So we got a DE, we got a destroyer that vanishes from one port, appears at another, comes back to the other one. Sailors all sorts of screwed up. And as far as the Navy is concerned, it could never have happened because the USS Eldridge had a full crew. It was in a different location. They had all the log books and all the records from all the, you know, sailors that were on board. So the Eldridge could not have been there for this. And according to the reports, it was the USS Eldridge that had participated in this program. I am going to reveal something that the military does not want me to reveal right now because I'm just starting the process of making sure they take custody of me before I end up revealing more volatile stuff. So we're just going to do a little bit of this time after time as episodes go on. The ship that was actually the one that was used for the Philadelphia experiment was not the USS Eldridge. It was the USS Kine. It was an identical ship. It had been laid but not commissioned, so it was sitting unused at that time. All they had to do was paint Eldridge on the side of it so that they could use it for those purposes. And because they knew the records of any sailors that were aboard any ships would be necessary for the records to have their plausible deniability, they outfitted the ship with private contractors that were wearing military uniforms. It was not actually the military that was running the experiment. It was private contractors, but they had the assistance of the military, which is why they had access to the Kine.
Okay. Well,
Wow.
all right. Let's go to Sarah.
Yes. What?
You got a question?
Well, I have many questions all the time, but yeah. What I like to know is okay, so from, you know, the Catalina Islands to San Diego, right? And you guys lost all your navigation too, and so did the Coast Guard. So I want to know how they lost it too, because they weren't near Catalina either. So did they also encounter something as well, you think, or do you think maybe it was just one of those things that could have affected it that far away? Because I don't know what those yachts have for navigation, you know, use either. So I know one of them sank in there too because a thing broke on them. So
Maybe, Sarah, maybe they were too close to the aircraft carrier. The aircraft carrier was close enough to some of these objects that it affected their navigation system. So there might have been residual electromagnetic fields still within the carrier itself, in the metal. So what I'm saying is when it came close to the Coast Guard, it affected them. What do you think, Triple B?
I think I would know a lot more if I was in intelligence.
Right?
But I was just on the deck.
Well, Grandmaster UV says, hello, everyone.
Hey.
Hey, UV.
Grandmaster, The water bottle hasn't been sent to me from Tom Reed yet. Trying to get a hold of it, and when I do, you'll get your water bottle sent in the mail. Jerry Carter says she's one tough, smart lady. And that's about
Aw,
Yep.
thank you. That's awful kind of you.
So how come this story, we don't hear it about it, in the Congress today?
Nope.
Actually, because it was prior to the TikTok, the Nimitz, and like this is a huge story.
That's what I
Why
thought.
aren't we hearing it like in the Congress?
Why aren't we hearing it on the news? Period. I mean,
Yes,
Well,
at all.
the media never mentioned a word about this
At
because.
all.
Well,
if I could
like
say
I said, the
something,
LA Times.
Go ahead.
try looking up women on board aircraft carriers and see how many articles there are about that. There aren't very many.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was a time.
So
that
you
I
think
that
that's the issue?
I think that they were trying to accomplish something, and they were trying to diversify the Navy, and they didn't want any of that to get out. Because if you look at women on board aircraft carriers in '95, you're going to find very little articles about any of it. But I was there, and I was part of it. And I remember talking to reporters numerous times that they'd meet us when we came off the ship and ask us how we were doing, what was going on, how it was life like on a ship, and stuff like that. But you don't see those articles either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Esmeralda says the mainstream media do not cover lots of news, and that's
Correct.
pretty much true.
Like,
95 is a different time too.
We actually were responsible.
Can't hear you, Triple B. You cut out.
Yeah.
I lost you for a second.
Okay.
Yep.
There we go.
Back.
So, the Abraham Lincoln was actually one of the first responders to John Denver's death when his airplane crashed.
I remember that.
And
Yeah.
We pulled his torso out of the ocean, and then the Coast Guard came and got it from us. That's not in any articles either.
Right.
Wow.
So, like Esmeralda said, she's accurate. There was a lot of things going on. The first female pilot for F-18 pilot, she died. That was all over the news when she crashed and died, and her plane went off the nose of the ship. That was all over the news, but nothing else other than, small random little things, like when we moved from Alameda to Seattle, and we were what was called Noah's Ark, and everyone came on board with their cars and their animals and their kids and their boats and their campers, and we moved from Alameda to Everett or Bremerton, Washington. That was all over the news because that was a big deal. There was animals and barn animals and
Right.
whole
Yeah.
families, cars parked everywhere, and fancy cars and everything that you could think of. The whole ship.
Snoopson 100 says in the mainstream news, it's more propaganda anymore. Yeah, we heard you.
Yeah. So, okay.
I was just reading what Snoopson said. In the mainstream media news, it's more propaganda anymore than the actual news.
Correct. It's what they want you to know, and what they feel you need to know, not what is the truth.
Yeah, and every news organization tells the same exact story. It's crazy. It's like it's like they already have a predetermined script.
Right.
For everyone.
Yeah.
Well, they also have a predetermined agenda.
Yep.
Yes, and I along with Nos, believe that the media is trying to dumb us down. So
hashtag facts.
Yeah, do not.
Can you guys give me 1 second? I've got a work call that keeps calling.
Okay, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Give me just 1 second. I'm so sorry.
You go ahead. I have something I want to cover. I have
Okay.
something I want to
Thank
cover
you.
while she takes that call.
Okay, you go ahead, Nos.
So there is another theoretical scenario surrounding this circumstance that would equate to them never acknowledging it and making sure that they never talk about it so that nobody asks questions. And, you know, there have been other incidents with the military in the past, especially off the East Coast, where a ship would end up going through a fog bank, or a flight of planes would go through a fog bank, and they would come out somewhere very far from where they thought they were.
Exactly.
You know, they got transported in the process of doing so. And if you're in a big ass fog bank and you get teleported and you're still in a big ass fog bank, you don't know you've changed locations. And if what they were really dealing with aboard that aircraft carrier is that it got nudged and all of a sudden all their computers were reading different GPS coordinates, they'd be going into reboot mode for systems analysis, making sure that everything goes through calibration checks and everything like that. And then they see the yachts.
Right.
That incident right there, if that's what happened, you know, that effectively at the time would have been the greatest armed military vessel in the world. For it to have been relocated even 1 mile is a very stern message from the ones that would have been responsible for that.
Oh, definitely.
And that is not something you want anyone to write any articles about anything happening surrounding that. You want that forgotten. You don't want anyone asking questions.
Right. See, when I was doing a little bit of research for this, right, I was having trouble with it. So I had to ask one of my friends, Jim's camera, Don, to help me with it, because he had found the yacht stuff originally. And I was having trouble finding it again. And then like that, it was like a documentary thing, and it's like an hour something long too. So trying to find it, you know, it was difficult. But yeah, you know, he was helping me, you know, research the stuff, because Triple was at work, and you know, Tim was like, I need the stuff. I'm like, I'm on it. So, you know, it was crazy though, because like, you know, I was just trying to search it on my own, and I forgot that it was happened in '95. That was my biggest problem searching it, but I can't find anything on it, like, at all.
There's
Like I said,
nothing. I searched the news. I have a newspaper clipping service that I go through too, and I searched that, and there wasn't any clippings at all about the '95 event.
Right.
Considering considering she gave us the month it happened, and the year, and the actual ship, you know, that's the thing. It should have been mentioned, but then again, with military secrets, it may not have.
Right, but still, I couldn't find anything on it, because I mean, they were in the midst of a race. Crazy, right? You'd think I'd find more on that at least, but not really. No.
Well, I was so amazed, because I was searching and searching and I couldn't find nothing. At some point, I sent to Tim a message, and I told him, like, does this girl exist somewhere? Because I cannot find nothing, but nothing, you know. Sometimes my feeling is that we get more information. It's easier to get information somehow from pilots today than from the Navy. You know, it's like the Navy, it's too, like, everything's too close.
One thing I got to say about that, the majority of UFO encounters and reports are handled by the U.S. Navy. They're not handled by the Air Force here. They're handled by the Department of the U.S. Navy. So, considering how much of the Earth is covered by ocean, Nos?
At this point, I think we're at 70%.
70% is covered by ocean. And if we've got aircraft carriers and ships all over those oceans, can you imagine the power and the ability of the Navy to control the sightings that they see?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's my point. I always found it weird that the Department of the Navy is in direct control of UFO sightings and encounters. not the Air Force, because you would think something flying, it'd be the Air Force, but it's not. It's the Navy.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to Google that, just Google U.S. Navy UFO encounters.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense. Most of the Earth is covered by water, so you need people that can go wherever the action is.
Also,
Right.
the Navy.
Yeah.
The Navy's been in existence longer.
Right. Right. Longer than a lot of services. That's true. And
so that's why they're already established. They've already been established prior to the Air Force even being born.
right. Or the Army, for that matter.
Correct.
Yep. Army
I'm
still
back, by the way.
rocks. By the way, Triple B, Army still rocks.
Okay, Army. Go Navy.
Air Force
Go
is the best,
Navy.
sorry.
Yeah.
How
so,
do you see this happening? What is going to happen with all the disclosure issue?
Like, you mean personally for me?
Yes.
I haven't disclosed anything that would be top secret or that I shouldn't disclose. So far, I haven't disclosed any information about the ship or my position. I've only disclosed what I saw.
right. That's true. That is true. And where you were located on the ship and the temperature of the deck and what the objects look like. So there. And we do appreciate that information because that's more information than I can't even talk. Than what's out there in the public domain.
Exactly.
There just isn't that
Yeah.
information. And I think this information should be disseminated to people who are in the know, that are working behind the scenes for disclosure in the government level. Although I truly believe disclosure is not coming from the government. I believe it's coming from people like us. And the harder we work toward it, it's going to come from individual accounts like yours, Chrissy, and individual accounts of Nos, myself, Polly, My Flock Sarah, Snoopson 100, Keebler, No Sugarcoating Truth, Esmeralda, Danny Stanton, all the people in the chat and everybody watching online. Those are the people that are going to deliver disclosure. What do you think, guys?
Oh, I agree.
Oh, yeah.
The truth is out there, and it truly is. And once you find the truth or the closest to it, it blows your mind. You know, it's crazy.
Well,
Hey,
I guess
Chrissy.
we come from a clean place, you know.
Yeah. Hey, Chrissy, are you close to getting home?
I am almost home. I had to stop and take that work call. So.
Oh, yeah. Like you didn't go to McDonald's. Yeah, we know.
There's no McDonald's between my work and my home. It's all just orchards and rice fields.
Orchards.
And
You
the
can pick up
chat
some
totally
wine.
agree with us. That's awesome, guys.
I'm in the
We are
Sacramento
all
Valley.
disclosure.
Yeah, Lisa Savoy says, yes, we are disclosure. Hi, Lisa. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Lisa. You know, I just had a moment of deja vu in here. It's crazy. Okay, moving on.
Talk
Dan-
about it.
Danny Stanton says, if I told you what I know, you couldn't handle it. LOL.
Probably could.
So
Well, he did private security in Iraq and stuff too. So he's been around the world as well. So he knows things as
Right.
well. So
Thank you, Danny,
things and stuff
for
and things.
doing that. We appreciate your service.
Yeah, and Keebler was in the Air Force, so.
So we have a lot of vets in the chat, and we have a few vets on the panel, and we want to thank them all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
We need more people out there in the world who are willing to serve and protect and also do a good job doing it, and then also not afraid to share the truth of what they've experienced and seen.
What I'm worried about is in 9 years, Polly's son is going to be in the IDF. So we hope and pray that there is a better situation where she's living
Right.
when that
Amen.
happens.
Or, they could just come
Yeah.
live with me. It's fine. Come to California. Joe B and I got you.
will.
Sweet.
Thank you so much.
But California's big enough for all of us,
I
yeah.
know. I hope in 9 years it will be better. We're building a new area here. It will be better for all of us.
Well,
Danny,
people like
and-
you out there, definitely.
Danny, I know you're not a vet, but you did private security over there and you were under a risky situation. That's why I'm thanking you for your service.
Well, definitely.
Steve
seen some
Wolf is
stuff.
still. Steve Wolf says, salute veterans, firefighters, and officers. We agree.
Steve.
I would like to also add thank you to the civilians that support us, because a lot of civilians do not, and I appreciate the ones that thank you for your service and value
Right.
them.
Hmm.
Right, I do agree with that. Yeah, thanks to all the civilians out there that support us. Yep. Jerry
Agreed.
Carter says, no, sounds like you're coming down with a bad cold, hon. Get plenty of rest and drink a little brandy or something.
Oh yeah, it's just lots of construction work in the house.
Right. So,
David Martin says, I
Thanks,
come from the
David.
anti-war movement.
well, war is bad, but defense is good in case people want to be weird.
I got to tell you, David, when I entered the service in the United States Army, I was a pacifist. But I had a drill sergeant come up to me, pull his weapon from his hip, put it up to my head, and say, if you had 5 seconds to defend yourself and keep me from shooting you in the head, would you? And I said, yeah. He said, well, then you're not a pacifist. So it all depends on your point of view and your situation.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Steve Wolf says, my father was in the Navy during the Korean War and IFD 25 years. That guy's my hero.
Yeah, my dad's dad was in the Air Force, and then he got a job at Hughes. And my dad worked at Hughes the same time my mom worked at Northrop. And they weren't allowed to talk to each other about what they did at work. It was crazy.
And a lot of those companies are actually handling reverse engineered alien craft
Oh, yeah.
that have been recovered from crash sites. This I know because I've read way too much information and heard from way too many credible people and sources to deny the fact that we have craft. We do have craft that is from off-world. Now, whether we understand it or not, that's the key. I've had long discussions with Nos about this. I don't believe that we understand it. And the problem is we're reverse engineering them incorrectly, and it's going to cause damages to the planet. What do you think, Nos?
Yeah, it's they never learned the math or physics, which is why the ARVs are defective the way that they are. They're just emulating the symptoms of the technology, not the math behind the technology. It's dangerous, and we need them to not use those anymore, which means they need to be given a better alternative, and that's coming. But
Nice.
Yeah. Hey, Triple B, I have a question for you.
I'm available. Go ahead. I'm still driving.
Okay. The question I have for you is this. Do you miss the Navy?
Every day.
What is it that you miss?
The discipline. I miss the security. I miss the camaraderie of your fellow shipmates and the people that you work with, the support, and most of all, probably just feeling value of what you do every day.
Right. Okay, I'm going to have to agree with you, Navy. I miss the camaraderie of being in
Absolutely.
the service.
Yes. I think that's one of the things I miss the most. And then probably the last thing, but it still does hold a very special place in my heart, is the lull of the ship putting you and rocking you to sleep at night.
Wow. That's interesting. I didn't have that. I was on land. But
I know, Army.
yes, but I was also in artillery Navy. So
My grandfather was Army, and he was on more ships than he was on land until he went to Guam.
Yes. That's where Odessa was born.
Yeah.
wow, yeah. Okay, let's take last questions from everybody on the panel.
Yeah.
Nos, we'll start with you.
Okay. So, Triple B. You find out that flying saucer has landed on the White House lawn. What do? Do you like sit down and just glue yourself to the TV to watch the news unfold? Do you have a barbecue in the backyard? What do you do in response to that situation?
I call Sarah and say, call Tim.
Right?
Good answer. Big bucks. No whammy.
And then I say, no, call Nos.
And then Tim says, call Moss.
Well, yeah. Together we can get a call going here, no problem. So, we all got
Do
on
that, or call
Discord. So.
Polly. She may have a different viewpoint. Yeah.
I call Sarah and say, call Tim. What's going on here?
Danny says run.
I have no clue. Yeah, Danny Stanton says, run.
Yeah.
Run, Forrest, run.
I am not running from anything. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. My days of running are over with. So now I just go, oh, well, this is going to happen. Sucks. Or cool.
Well, I don't run either. I tend to wheel.
Yeah, no, I tend to just, I tend to approach things to the face value.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, next is Sarah.
Well, Triple B, first off, I want to thank you for letting me know about your encounter and story and your experience. And I appreciate you giving me your trust in the fact that I knew where to go for the proper reveal of this story that you have. And I appreciate that. And also, again, thank you for your service and stuff. And I also wanted to ask one more question here. What was it very stressful to be one of the first ladies on the ship?
That's a whole nother live stream. But absolutely, when we got there, we were not wanted there because men had been on ships for decades without women, except for maybe a pilot here or there. And when we got there, we were very unwanted, and we were shunned, and we were mocked, and I'm not going to get into it. Yes, Sarah, it was very stressful.
Overall, you coming forward at this point, makes it, more believable, more valid, more all that true, in especially my opinion, because you really had to overcome so much being there, and you have really nothing to lose by saying anything other than, people go, well, you're weird. But at the end of the day, this is what happened. This has been happening. This keeps happening. And, we all learned something tonight that we didn't know about. And I find that very commendable that you chose to share your story.
Share it here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you.
I can honestly say that I have spent my last 25 years raising my beautiful daughter, working 3 jobs, focused on that. And now that my daughter's grown and she's an adult and she's a beautiful adult doing really well in life, and I've met Sarah, and Sarah is an amazing person. And since I've met Sarah and she was bringing up, oh, this UFO man, and I was like, you know what, I saw something once. And I told her my experience. But this is probably one of the only times in my life that I've actually devolved what happened and what I saw, because I always thought people are going to think I'm crazy.
No.
No. This is YouTube. We're all
not
crazy.
at all. Not here.
We actually know better.
Yes.
We know better, Chrissy.
And that's exactly when I told Sarah what happened. She goes, "Oh my God, I know exactly what you're talking about." She started telling me all these things, and I'm like, "You're so educated in this. I know nothing. I just know what I saw." Like,
Yeah, I've been trying to arrange a show between you guys for quite some time. So
Right.
finally, I'm glad it came through. Like I said, Jim's camera Don helped too, and he's part of the My Flock team and the BBB team as well.
absolutely. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I mean,
thanks to everybody who helped out. Yes, I appreciate it.
Yeah, because I thought I was just like, being all special ed, couldn't research right all of a sudden. I'm like, but I swear I can for this especially because I know what I'm talking about. And Jim came through. So there we go.
Chrissy, I do have a question for you before we go to Polly. How many women to men ratio was it when you first got on board?
Okay, I'm going to give you two answers. So when I first got on board, there were 6 women that we got on the bus from Treasure Island, and we aborted the ship as 6 women, 1 chief petty officer and 5 enlisted. We were there for 2 weeks before more women started coming on board. But as women came on board, women that arrived with us started leaving because they couldn't handle it. They were having mental stress issues. They had hurt knees or hurt backs. They didn't want to do it. They went out on medical discharges. So as women would leave, more women would come in. Eventually, we had a berthing of about 150 women to 5,000 to 6,000 men.
Right.
And then at the end of the 6 months, when we had proven our value to the Navy, they opened all billets, and then women started coming on every time a plane would land or a helicopter would land. There would be women coming off, but there would also be women loading back up and going away. So us women kind of got to a point where we didn't want to get close to the other women on board ship because we didn't know if they were going to come and go really fast. But we did stick together for those of us that had been on board for a while. So we kind of picked and choose who we associated with, but we were very, very close to our team of men that we worked with.
Right.
No doubt.
And they were very protective of us because they knew we were a minority. So, like, if we would go out to a bar in a port and some guy would come up, oh, you better look out because the Navy's coming for you. You best step away and go another direction because, like, they were not having it. They were very protective big brothers. And so it was something to live and know and learn. But at the same time, I wouldn't change a single thing about it at all because it was a lifetime experience and it's something that taught me and it set me to the person that I am today.
Bingo.
Exactly.
Right.
Boom.
I think the military changes people in a way that either makes them who they are today or makes them less than they are today. It's a choice you make when you're in the service. And I made the choice to become a better person. So
yes, it either makes you or breaks you.
Right.
Well,
Yes.
see, I knew I couldn't get into the military because of my learning disabilities. But when I did ROTC, right, it was the closest I'll ever be into the military itself. And I mean, I went on amazing field trips. And like I said, when I was on the carrier, right, they told us the whole, tale of the first women on the aircraft carrier. And I didn't even appreciate it at the time, but I knew it. So then, like, when I met Triple B, I was just like, oh, wait, I know that story. Let me tell you. So it's amazing, though. I can't even imagine how tough you are. I mean, wow.
I can tell you that we were hazed every day for probably close to 6 months.
Yeah, but once you survived all that, they knew you were not to be messed with.
Okay,
Exactly.
so after we survived that, they made me the lead of my team.
There you go.
There you go. Congratulations. You deserved it.
Yeah, we just had to prove
Yeah.
our value and our worth and get the respect and earn the respect of the people
But everybody
that we work
does.
with.
Yeah.
And the guys that had been on there, 14, 15 years, they didn't want to budge. They were salty dogs, and they were like, no, I'm not having it. I'm not having a split tail here is what they would call us.
Yeah. That's me.
Well, it was what it was, and I was about to prove otherwise.
There you go.
There was a day that I had 4 lengths of fuel hose to pull to fuel a plane, and the linkage was 75 pounds each link, and there were 4 links. And they told me that I couldn't do it. And I am 5'5", and at the time I was about 140 pounds. And I threw that fuel thing over my shoulder, and I leaned like Michael Jackson until my nose almost touched the deck, and I moved it
Yes.
by myself. And when I finally got about 35 feet from the plane, they all jumped up and said, "Oh my God," and they came and helped. But that day I earned their respect.
But you moved it. That's the point.
I moved it.
Yeah.
I was going to go down fighting. I wasn't giving in.
Exactly.
And I think that's what they saw in me in boot camp and in tech school, and that's why I was selected, honestly.
Well, you earned it, girl, and we respect you as well. So, Polly, what's your last comment?
Well, Christy, I want to say thank you so much. I think especially this incident, we want to be so informative for everyone, you know, and it was really hard to find information about this. So the fact that we have you here, it's awesome because we just heard it from you. And, you know, this can't just be better. This is awesome. So thank you so much for sharing this. And I guess my last question will be, how did your family and close friends react to this?
I was very close to my grandparents, and my grandparents gave me a lot of support. My grandparents supported me 110% throughout my whole life until the time that they have passed recently. Rest of my family, not so much. But I have also not disclosed or been as close to them as I was my grandparents that raised me. But I had a very amazing support team with my grandparents and my daughter especially. And still today, my daughter is one of my best friends. So
that's
great.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I also want to say it's very frustrating on my end when you tell someone I was one of the first women on board an aircraft carrier and they can't find an article about it.
Right.
I know. Yeah, it's very, very
So-
disappointing. Hopefully we'll be able to find an article when we bring you back on the channel so that we can
I
share
will
with
write the
everybody.
first article.
That's right, Polly.
Yeah, because
That
Yeah.
was
Polly,
amazing.
Polly's an investigative journalist, so she can write the first article.
Okay, well, the articles came out of Alameda, California in 1995, the late part of 94, early part of 95.
Okay.
It would have been the late part of 94. So it would have been August, September of 94 when women aborted the USS Abraham Lincoln CVN 72 in Alameda Naval Air Station.
I was in middle school.
And we came
I
from
am
Treasure
so
Island.
going to write this article.
And I have 2 other females that arrived to the ship with me. If you need their information, get in touch with Sarah and I'll give you their information.
Yes.
Yeah, I got you.
Of
Well,
course.
I'm pretty sure I have you on Facebook, so I'll find you there and
Yeah.
get you in touch.
We're still friends today. Those 2 girls and I are still sisters today. And we meet each other every
Awesome.
year and spend a week together.
Awesome.
There you go.
By chance, did they see what you saw as well?
No, they were on the flight deck, but they were in different sections. They
Okay.
did different. They weren't in V4. They were in V2 and V1. Which
So,
is
Christy, if you are willing to do it, we will do it. We will write an article. We will be in touch with Sarah and Nos and everything.
Sounds great
Awesome.
to me, and thank you, Triple B and Christina Sharp, the proper name.
well, on
Right.
the ship, I was known as Gentleman because that was my maiden name. So
Right,
weren't
so
gonna know
Airman
me.
Gentleman.
correct. They called me Lady G.
So, Lady G, we're going to thank you very much for coming on tonight. If people want to find Triple B online, Triple B stands for Brain Benders Banter. She has a really interesting, very thriving channel on YouTube called Brain Benders Banter, and that's her avatar for her channel. So when you go there and look for that avatar, watch her material, subscribe to her channel. We're trying to get her up to 100,000. I think she'll get there rather quickly. I mean, she's grown from 24,000 to 59,000, in my opinion, in about 2 months' time. So what I'm going to say to you is she is taking off. So check it out. Be entertained. Watch her stuff. Give her likes. Help her out. Thanks.
She's live every Saturday, and I'm her official co-host.
I pulled over to so I can say goodbye.
And Danny Staten's a panel member, as Tim is when he's available.
Yeah, mainly my panelists that I have on every week are Nos, Odessa, Polly. Once in a while, Nancy Timms, but she's been really busy lately. She is currently at the International MUFON Symposium as a presenter. Right. So we wish her the best. Yes, we do.
Yes.
And we want to thank everybody who participated in the chat room, everyone who participated online, and let you know that we are working on a guest for the 17th, because the guest I had planned, Susie Hansen from New Zealand, had personal family issues to deal with and had to cancel, and we're gonna reschedule her. But we are working on someone by the name of Ray Bow that was suggested to our channel by Polly Rodeman. So we're working on that, trying to schedule a date. Maybe we can get her on the 17th. And if so, we'll have her on. If not, maybe we'll just do a free-for-all live stream where we talk about anything and everything.
UFO related.
So hopefully we'll see you next week. And thank you for watching. From everybody on the panel, we want to say thank you and good night.
Good night.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.